At this moment in Dragon Ball, I think it's fairly safe to say that the ceiling has far eclipsed transformations like Super Saiyan 1 through 3. With guys like Hit and Jiren popping up, it always seems like the Z Fighters are constantly on this uphill battle of trying to get stronger and stronger by the day, and now with the introduction of Planet Eater Moro, the entire multiverse may be at stake. So much pressure is being put on such things like Spirit Control and Ultra Instinct recently that it's honestly starting to make me feel like that may not be the final plan that comes together, even though Ultra Instinct has pretty much been pushed as the answer. One avenue that I think would make a ton of sense to explore more is the Uzaru transformation of the Saiyans, but more specifically how they can compress this back into their humanoid form, most notably known as Super Saiyan 4. In the most recent movie, a canonized Broly was the latest person to demonstrate this power, even though not necessarily a Super Saiyan 4, but there's still really next to nothing known about this power, but this isn't necessarily the first instance of this. Millions of years before the age of Goku and Vegeta, a primal tribe of Saiyans existed that wielded amazing strength, led by the most powerful warrior amongst them, Yamoshi. The story of this ancient Saiyan has it that Yamoshi was a very righteous and loyal Saiyan who harnessed the power of the Super Saiyan long before Goku, but the most interesting thing about him may be that his name resonates with the legend of the original Super Saiyan god. This is Dragon Ball Super Yamoshi by Thibaut DeBoom, an original fan manga. If you guys want to check out the original story for yourselves, as it is kinda long and it'll take a while to cover, the link to the entire manga will be down below in the description box, as well as a link to Thibaut's channel, so be sure to go show him as much love and support as you guys do me. Lastly, if you haven't already, be sure to click that notification bell to never miss Dragon Ball content like this, and follow me on Twitch and Twitter also to stay up with everything happening off air and the latest Dragon Ball news. But without further ado,
I got swords on my back, set my right back. Ninjas with me, niggas throwing stars at these bitches. Eating ramen noodles in the hood with my niggas.
the age is 238. Many years before the birth of Goku, before the destruction of planet Vegeta, the Saiyans lived on planet Sadala. The first thing we see is this very old man, assuming he's a Saiyan as well, as he greets someone saying long time no see. Our hero Yamoshi asks the guy what it is that he wants, to which he replies that the king requests to see him. Yamoshi, the Super Saiyan of legend, but a soldier right now, tells the old man that he'll go see the king tomorrow, and then he says goodbye and flies off. Wondering what the issue is, Yamoshi ponders just why the king has requested to see him of all people all of a sudden as he reaches his home. Inside, we get to meet Yamoshi's wife, Phasalis. Asking why he's home so much later than usual, Yamoshi tells her about how he's been summoned by the king, and she automatically assumes that it's something bad, asking him just what the hell did he do to be told to report to the king, but Yamoshi says that the last time he was summoned was 3 years ago, when he was made leader of the squad, so maybe it's not all bad. Phasalis jokes about the king crowning Yamoshi and stepping down, but Yamoshi just ignores her and decides to go to sleep. A voice speaks out to Yamoshi in his sleep, calling him weak and taunting him about failing to protect someone. Calling him a fraudulent leader and just the epitome of a weak Saiyan. The voice torments Yamoshi in his dreams, wearing down at his mental, eventually causing him to wake up screaming in a cold sweat, waking his wife as well. It seems that these nightmares aren't too rare, however, as Phasalis says that, is this the third time this week? And then they head off back to sleep, assuming things are back to normal, but outside of their house, the old man we met when our story first began is watching Yamoshi very closely. The next day arrives, and this is West Saiyan Village, an immensely populated marketplace on planet Sadala with a pretty impressive economy system, proving that Saiyans aren't just brute warriors but also merchants and traders. After hunting, their non-consumables are used to make things like jewelry and clothing that can be sold and resold to other villages, so I thought this was pretty freaking impressive for such an early time in Saiyan history. Yamoshi and Phasalis find themselves in this village, and as they part ways, she asks them to not be too late coming home this time as she goes to shop. As Yamoshi begins to walk away, a merchant calls out to him saying, "So you were summoned by the king?" He walks up to her and asks to purchase an apple before he makes his way, but After paying for it, he starts to get an extremely bad feeling, specifically from the apple he just picked up. He recognizes the smell and likens it to danger for some reason, crushing the apple instead of eating it, which angers the girl. She starts yelling at him and insulting him, which Yamoshi remains cool for the most part, but then she goes on to say that he'll die just like his precious friend. But when she begins to speak that friend's name, a ferocious power emerges from Yamoshi as he warns her to not go any further. The power of the Oozaru has begun to show itself within Yamoshi, but in quite a unique form, as the shocked girl asks if he's a hunt leader, which are the captains assigned by the king. Fully transformed now, Yamoshi replies, "Yeah, I am," and he commands her to get rid of her entire stock, but she's confused on why he hates the apple so much. He explains that they just smell really off, like they were infected with something that they can't see, and then he leaves, warning her to be careful what she's selling to people, making his way off to see the king. As Yamoshi is leaving the market, he ascends the staircase, and at the top, he runs into another one of his soldiers, a Saiyan named Kabura. Kabura explains that an old man came to him last night as well and said the exact same thing to him, that the king is requested to see them. Yamoshi asks Kabura if he has any idea at all to why the king wants to see them all of a sudden, and he says not really, but it could have something to do with their previous mission. This took place approximately 1 week prior to the events we see today. Yamoshi, Kabura, and others find themselves in the midst of a battle with a giant horned beast, and even for a group of Saiyans, this is looking like a handful, as Kabura says that he thinks they may need a little more help. The beast lets off a reckless energy beam, firing off in whichever direction he decides to turn his head, and being this carelessly destructive is making it extremely difficult to take this guy down, as he's just so hard to predict. The Saiyans descend back down to the ground as Physalis yells for everyone to get ready for the transformation, all raising a fist in the air. Yamoshi, asserting his leadership now, tells him that after the transformation to follow his instructions, and then we're introduced to the rest of his squad. 2 young Saiyans named Romero and Tensei as they all prepare for the final attack. Yamoshi then does something very familiar. He creates an energy sphere in his hand and launches it into the sky, creating a huge ball of light. You see, when Saiyans are exposed to the full moon and look directly at it, they're able to harness a very mysterious power within them, turning into a giant great ape called an Oozaru and making them about 10 times stronger. Originally, this power was used for hunting purposes when their enemies or prey were much harder to defeat than normal, but a lot of Saiyans were unable to control such a form, so different strategies had to be put in place. But even with such an awesome power, there is a feat beyond this that was discovered long before Goku. Select Saiyans such as Yamoshi have shown to even be able to manage the power of the Oozaru without transforming into a great ape, where the eyes become yellow, hair becoming spiky and such, but the strength increase is no different from taking on the other form. Very few Saiyans have ever arrived at this feat because of the great deal of self-control it takes to master, as we see Yamoshi in his Oozaru Wrath form lead the pack with a screeching war cry, and then leading his squad as they charge the beast, obliterating it with relative ease. After the hunt is over, everyone goes back to normal after a few minutes, regaining their clothes and belongings as Yamoshi attempts to round them all up to leave, but Physalis senses a very strange smell in the air, giving her this weird, lingering feeling. Romero senses it as well, and they decide it's probably best to leave this place ASAP. The scent is becoming nauseating at this point, as Yamoshi decides to send the rest of his crew back home while he goes to check out exactly what's going on. He flies off in the direction of the scent, getting closer and closer, but then he starts to realize something. This is a familiar scent. A very familiar smell. And then he sees it. What Yamoshi saw that day will burn in his mind forever. Bodies on top of bodies, mutilated Saiyans that were ripped to pieces by something or someone. As Yamoshi stands frozen in the sky above the lake offshore to where the bodies are, something behind him startles him as he spots something else in the lake. A menacing figure is resting in the lake with blood staining his neck and arms as Yamoshi is completely frozen in fear. The only words he can mutter are, "It's you." What Yamoshi saw that day has terrorized him day in and day out for the past week, as that nauseating smell they all sensed led to a pile of Saiyan bodies that had been there for who knows how long, and on top of that they were torn to shreds, which is something even a ruthless Saiyan warrior could never forget. However, the ghastly figure in the water is what really shook Yamoshi to the core, as even the power of the Master of Duzaru form stood in fear at whoever that man is. That's gonna do it for this one, guys. Thanks so much for watching until the end. If you made it this far, as always, down below in the comments, let me know how much you enjoyed the beginning of Dragon Ball Super Yamoshi, another fantastic piece of art by the homie Thibault Daboon. Whenever Dragon Ball Super returns, more lore and details on the Saiyan race would definitely be something I would be hyped about, as they could really expand on the whole, Namekian Book of Legends concept, which could lead into some crazy lore and plot lines, but that's probably too much to hope for. I hope not, but it probably is. If you guys want to check out Dragon Ball Super Yamoshi for yourselves, both the link to Thibault's channel as well as the link to the site the fan manga is posted on will be down below in the description box, so be sure to go show the homie a ton of love and support like we always do here. Lastly, before we go, be sure you guys have the notification bell clicked so you never miss the best Dragon Ball content on the web, because apparently YouTube is doing more changes and notifications have been piss poor lately, so this is probably the only way to help it right now. And if you guys enjoyed this video, consider leaving a like as well. But anyways, have a great day, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye guys.